r/askreddit. What are some ridiculous history facts?
Ancient Romans would put sandals on the hands of sleeping people, then tickle their face so they would slap themselves.
Ancient Romans were always up to some crap. ###### Romans used to wash clothes in urine. Because urine contains ammonia, a powerful bleaching agent, ancient Romans used to wash their clothes in pee. At many street corners, there were public urinals that men could use, and their contents were collected every day and brought to the laundries.
They really were.
When the Romans laid siege to Themyscira, a real place, weirdly enough, they attempted to tunnel into the city. The Themyscirans released bears into the tunnels.
Myscara, bro, ain't that Wonder Woman's hometown?
Yeah, it totally was. Weirdly, a lot of Greek myths tell you real locations where myths happened, and their myths about the Amazons gave them a specific real city to base them in, which later the Romans conquered.
Claudius Drusus died in AD 20 from asphyxiation when he tossed a pear in the air and caught it in his mouth. The pear tree was put on trial, found guilty of murder, and destroyed.
2 important questions. 1. How large was this man's throat? 2. How small was this pear?
The Spartans never built a city wall, figuring that their reputation alone would mean no one would dare attack them. But during the Persian War, the Persians, who had already burned Athens twice, hired a Greek guide to take them to Sparta. But when they got there, they saw a kind of crap-looking city without even a wall. They figured there was no way this place could be the mighty Sparta they had heard so much about. So they figured the Greek was lying and thus Sparta was spared.
This is Sparta. Now that the popularity of this thread has died down, I just wanted to thank all those that gilded my comments. Much appreciated.
No, this is madness.
In ancient Egypt, servants were smeared with honey to attract flies away from the pharaoh.
That's so dumb. Why not just put the honey on a statue or something?
Just think of all the honey trapmen you would put out of a job.
The first bomb dropped on Berlin by the British during W2 claimed no human casualties, but it did kill an elephant.
Never forget.
The Battle of Bull Run during the American Civil War was called the Picnic Battle because so many civilians from Washington went on picnics on the sidelines and watched. But once the battle actually started and the Union started to get its butt kicked, they all ran away, running over injured soldiers and dead bodies, and generally disrupting the battle. This was actually a relatively common thing during the Civil War. I know it happened at Gettysburg too.
It also happened at the Battle of Watling Street in the year 61. The Iceni were so confident they would defeat the Romans, they gathered round in their wagons to watch. When they were routed and had to fall back, the wagons blocked their path, and that's how Baedeker was defeated.
I thought the wagon thing was pretty standard for Celtic migratory war parties. Families stand behind the lines so that the warriors know retreat isn't an option.
A Chinese emperor escaped an assassin by running around a pillar. After 2 hours, the assassin got bored and went home, and wasn't charged for his crimes.
Not to mention that this emperor was the first emperor of China and went on to start the formation of the Great Wall, as well as the Terracotta Army, among many other major things. I think he also narrowly survived an assassination attempt where a strongman rolled a boulder down a cliffside in order to crush his carriage by having a duplicate carriage in front.
If only the strongman had a duplicate boulder.
At US President Andrew Jackson's funeral in 1845, his pet parrot had to be removed because it was swearing.
Colombia has a period in history literally called the dumb homeland period because of how incredibly dumb politicians acted at the time.
How long ago?
Montenegro technically was in war with Japan for 101 years, and they signed a peace treaty in 2006. Montenegro was aligned with Russia in Russo-Japanese War, and they declared war on Japan, but they forgot to peace.
When the Netherlands was occupied by re-Nazis in 1940, many people fled to Canada, including Princess Juliana of the Netherlands and her husband Prince Bernhard of Lippe-Westerveld. Their daughter, Princess Margaret, was born in Ottawa. Not knowing if the baby would be male, and hence the heir to the throne, Canada declared the maternity ward of the Ottawa Hospital extraterritorial, which means it became international territory. This meant that the baby would derive its nationality only from its mother, making it 100% Dutch.
That's why the Netherlands send tons and tons of tulip pounds to Canada every year. They're planted all around the city of Ottawa, and in the spring the city celebrates the Tulip Festival. There are tulips of all kinds and colors all over the place. We've also named an entire hospital in Toronto after the princess.
That, and the Canadian Army in W2 playing a major role, the largest role, in liberating the Netherlands, and also doing supply drops during the famine there.
The shortest war occurred between Zanzibar and the British Empire, lasting around 45 minutes.
Both the British and the Zanzibar Sultanate fielded a couple thousand men with a few boats. However, the war ended with a single Brit wounded. Meanwhile, the Zanzibarians suffered as 500 dead or wounded, including civilians, and their entire navy, a yacht, 2 boats, and a shore battery. Go on.
What? That is some serious superior firepower there.
There used to be bread stamps burned into a cooked loaf of bread to avoid bread fraud, as the government supplied the wheat/flour, but some bakers tried to use sawdust and other ingredients in the bread to make the wheat last longer. The bread stamps were baker-specific, so they could track down where any tainted bread came from. If they were caught, they had to move to another town to make bread, or wait 3 years to continue making bread, if I remember correctly.
During the most critical portion of World War I, the Japanese thought they had sunk or disabled 3 American carriers when, in reality, they had only bombed the U.S. Yorktown 3 times. They were caught with their pants down when the bombs started landing at Midway.
They were only even caught with their pants down at Midway because multiple American bomber squadrons who were lost happened to stumble upon the Japanese fleet from different angles at almost the same time. We accidentally coordinated a beautiful pincer attack. Our attack on them, until that point, consisted of many squadrons of torpedo bombers who went in knowing their torpedoes had a 90% fail rate.
As Mr. Lawrence was roasted to death on a gridiron, he is said to have remarked to his torturers, "I am cooked on this side. Turn me over." Lawrence is the patron saint of cooks and comedians.
The first comedy roast. I bet Jeff Ross was there.
During W2, a bunch of German soldiers got separated in rural Russia. They were trudging through snow with no food or water for days before finally finding a supply drop that missed its mark. They opened it up and found only black pepper and condoms.
Welp, the pepper will temporarily make us feel warm. And as for the condoms, when in Rome...
Using the condoms will also make us feel warm.
General Omar Bradley was stopped by MP during the Battle of the Bulge in WO2 due to them thinking he was a Nazi infiltrator. The irony was that he was stopped because he correctly identified the capital of Illinois as Springfield when the officer thought it was Chicago.
During the Cold War, there was an idea to drop Exel condoms labeled medium onto the Soviets to make them think we were anatomically superior and be more afraid of fighting us. Easily, my favorite part of American history.
Whoops! I dropped my monster condom for my magnum dong.